How
How long have we been here?
Oh, I forgot.
I thought we were coming in and they came already.
Hey, just always keep an eye on me because I'll just. Oh.
Yellow bands on your gunboats. Where's the reed?
You have model.
Well, it might be.
Ki mai anō ngā te whakau e, o tēnā tata katoa, ko tai mai nei, tēnei te mihi, te mahana, te aroha o honuku, te whenua, takatake o honuku, o ngā tirangi te apotau, nau mā hara mai, i te mātakitaki ki te kōrero, e pāna ki a mātou mea, a mātou pānua miraka hipi. Te konei, me ngā mea kaiko, tērā te mea kia whakau. Nō reira, I rungi I tērā whakaro, ko te mea nui, you have to provide a sample before you come on our farm.
That's too big.
What we have got is we've got some sampling of sheep. You'll see. Ko tērā, I rungi te hari ko te nanaki me te aroa ki o koutou. Mana, nau mai, hara mai, hoki mai, mana, nei te mihi ki a koe hoki. O tira tata ko te hoki nei, a tēnā koutou, nau mai, tēnā koutou, hara mai, tau mai, tēnā tau. Te mea,
Tigei uri, tigei takuna. Whakatau wā, nei, whakatau wā, te whakai raru nei. Ai mea rai, te mihi te awhūtau. Te tawahiti o oniku e kohi mani a mātou te haere mai. Nei tōna te tuwhirau o kōtou tatau ki te pōhiri mai a mātou ki runa ki tēnei papa. Te mihi nui tā mātou, te whakaaro I heria mai. Ai whakatoko toa. I tūpuna karakau e ke mātai hihia nā mahi miraka hipi nei. Tēnā me poro hiu mai he mātene ki nui tō mātou vēni a mātou hoki ana e kai mātene ai mātou a tēni ahia. Nā reira koe ni nā ke te whakaaro e ke. Tōro koe tōro pāne. Tēnā tātou. E matapai.
It's magic.
Hei tae nei kai pāmua no haungara ngā hua pūtea nui, tērā no ngā hua nui ki te hauora o te taiao me te tangata.
Well, this is the culmination of our Miraka Hipi program, which actually started some 3 years ago. And we initially started with a breeding program of purebred East Frisians, and that's what you see here today. And then we've started from there, and the culmination of which is we're just coming to the end of our first season of milking.
Now tell me, is sheep milking an unusual thing here in New Zealand?
Yeah, this is a new industry. There's one or two Māori entities who have been milking for some time, but for Māori mostly this is a new option for us. And so for Onuku Māori Lands Trust, we saw the opportunity to convert one of our 4 dairy farms from bovine to ovine, and so this is the culmination of that program. The reasons that we did that is 2 or 3-fold. Obviously, environmental. There's some definite advantages from changing from cow milking to sheep milking. some gains.
Can you tell me about that in detail? You know, what are the benefits to sheep milking compared to bovine?
Yes, so the benefits are that our environmental footprint is reduced. There's still study work going on through ag research and at the university, but already there's 25 to 35% reduction in our N and P runoff to waterways. The other gains are, in terms of the shed here, much less water use, and of course the fact that we've got a system which is both designed for pastoral grazing, but also where the flock are housed in housing barns. So those are further definite gains for minimising our overall carbon footprint.
And what about financial gains?
Financial gains, yeah, very definitely. The constituency of the milk is far higher in terms of protein and fat and lactose content, and so we have a supply contract agreement with Spring Sheep, and so we're paid per milk solid, but the milk solid content is far higher than bovine dairy. So the return is far higher from ovine than bovine for us.
And what does sheep milk taste like?
Sheep milk, I like it actually. It's a smoother, slightly sweeter milk, and because it's got higher fat and protein content, it's lovely. And even added in coffee and tea, it enhances coffee quite a bit more.
And healthier too, I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, because of the higher constituent makeup of the milk, it is a lot healthier.
So who would this type of who would this milk suit?
Well, most of the milk from this and the other Spring Sheep suppliers all go into baby formula. The market, we can't supply enough of that market. So all of this milk is going into baby formula.
But for people like that are lactose intolerant, even it's better for people.
Yeah, there is certainly a benefit for lactose intolerant babies and adults.
Do you see a future where sheep milk could be replacing our normal dairy milk on in the supermarket?
Well, it's available in our supermarkets now, albeit not in great volume, but that's about to change, I'm sure, as this and other suppliers start growing. So it's definitely another option for supermarkets.
And do you see this being particularly beneficial for Māori if they were to transition to sheep milk?
Oh, I think so, very, very definitely. It's no secret now that the pressure is coming increasingly onto our agricultural industry, and for us here in Te Arawa, where a lot of our Māori land blocks are near or around our lakes, there are obviously definite advantages by changing from bovine to sheep milk and to ovine.
Is sheep milking the future?
Sorry?
Is sheep milking the future?
I think so. It's certainly another diversification, and given that traditionally we've been sheep breeders anyway, and personally, I grew up on a farm. Personally, I like seeing little white things still around our hills and our paddocks, and I think for Māori it definitely is another diversification option.
Now tell me about how you guys transitioned to sheep milking and the journey to get here. Was it difficult, and how much did it cost you guys?
Yeah, well, as I say, this journey started some 3 years ago when we had the option to get into a breeding program, and so we started that about 2.5 years ago. We had to do our due diligence because it was still a relatively new industry, so much research had to go on. We're grateful that we were able to tap into some funding streams, including the Commercial Advisors Scheme, and that helped us to fund some of the early research that we had to do. We're grateful, as I say, to Spring Sheep because they've been amazing. They've been already involved in this industry. I think they started 7 years ago. So they've been really good in making available the information that they've already gained. So all of that has helped to get us to this point today. In terms of return, as I say, from our supply contract, we're gaining a far higher price per milk solid than we do from our dairy farms, actually.
What is that?
So we're averaging about $13 to $14 per kg milk solid equivalent to dairy, whereas Fonterra is only paying $7.40 or something at the moment.
And where are your biggest markets?
Through Asia. And that's where our milk powders are going at the moment.
So for Māori that perhaps, well, how much would it cost for Māori to transition to sheep milking? Is it a big cost? Is it a big transition?
Yeah, depending on how you want to do that. We chose to build a whole new infrastructure, even though, as I say, this dairy farm has got a dairy shed just further out here. But we chose to create a whole new structure and put in as you see, a rotary platform, which does have a benefit in terms of probably slightly less staff. But having said that, this still does require a higher staffing than bovine. So in our pit we have at least 3 or 4, whereas as a bovine, this farm had a staffing of 2. Yes, well, that's another box we're ticking, because ultimately we'd like to be employing more of our own people, and so I mean, as you can see, this has certainly gone up 100% from 2 staff to 4. But certainly when we get to the lambing part of the program, we require a lot more casual labour for lamb feeding and the likes, and lamb management, and that's through until we can get those lambs weaned. And so the ram lambs that are born, once they are weaned, we take them over to our dry stock farm and finish them over there. So no lamb loses its life in this operation. All the ewe lambs are kept for replacements of our flock as we go forward, and the excess are for sale to industry that farmers that are opting to get into this.
And how many sheep do you have currently, and where do you want to go? How big do you want to be?
Well, we started with 1,600 for the season. So to milk, we milked, I think we started with 1,500 to milk. I think we're currently, and we're getting to the end of the season now, so I think we've got about 900 coming through here now, as ewes have dried off over this last 3 or 4 weeks. So given that we started mid-August last year, and here we are sort of mid-April now, so we'll probably dry off in the next probably 10 days. So that's our lactation period for this season. And it is our first season, so next year we're looking to increase to 1,800. So, cow shed. Yeah. Like in terms of stock units, so there's about 5 sheep to 1 stock unit. So, 1,800 sheep divided by, it's 6 actually, per, 1 sheep to 1 cow. So divide 1,800 by 6. So that, that's about 300 in terms of the old bovine ratio.
Oh gosh.
Okay, where can you get what supermarket stock or not?
New World? Yeah, available New World in Tauranga. Is there some in here in Rotorua?
I might ask you that question again if that's okay. So where can people buy sheep milk now?
Supermarkets, I understand, New World Tauranga stocks it, and online. Yeah. So if you just Google spring sheep, you can buy it that way.
I have another question too. Yeah.
So the cost of setting up here. So a brand new operation, including our housing barns that you've seen, and the shed, plus all the machinery that we've got. It's 4 million.
And that's on the higher end of the scale?
We have been able to utilise some of our existing infrastructure because this was a dairy farm. Like the wash down, the effluent goes into a holding tank here and is pumped up to our existing effluent pond, which is then reticulated out in the same way as it was when it was a dairy farm. So 4 million all up, and that was for everything, machinery and all. A rotary for cows is in that ballpark too. Yeah, I mean, a rotary for cows is a bigger plant, because it's a big animal obviously, and there's setting up a rotary dairy is a big expense.
I think that's all the partai I have. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or anything I haven't covered?
I've talked about spring sheep and the related.
I was interested in how the public in New Zealand view,
Yeah.
I want to talk about the animal welfare aspects of it as much
Yeah.
as better. And from the public perception, these animals get a pretty good life
Yeah.
Yes.
in the way that they're treated.
Yes.
Oh yes, and there's something else I wanted to ask you too.
and how the Greens have responded to it.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I might get you to step back a little bit if that's okay.
Sorry.
How's our friend?
You want me to move?
Just back. Yeah. That's fine. How do you think the public might take to drinking sheep milk?
Well, we all like it, the trustees and our staff. So if we're a representative sample of the public, I think it'll go well.
And in terms of animal welfare as well, how well cared for are these sheep?
Yeah, animal welfare is a big thing for us. I mean, as you can see, these sheep are well bred, and so their welfare and caring is paramount in our whole operation, and hence the housing barns that we have. So we operate a system of in and out grazing, and as well as in shed feeding. So when weather conditions are adverse, they can be in the housing barns, and they're fed in there. Even the lambs. I mean, they are well looked after in our lambing facility and well fed, and so they're well looked after.
And tell me about these type of sheep too, because I understand that they're not the same, they're not normal, typical Kiwi sheep that would find here in Aotearoa.
Yeah, no, these are specially bred. So as I said earlier, these are East Frisian, which have been specially genetically bred for producing milk. And so around the world there are a few specialist breeds. There's the Lakongs, and a few other breeds. So it may be that we might introduce a bit of Lakong into our flock as we move forward. I guess the ultimate, typical New Zealand farming, the ultimate would be to have a New Zealand bred specialist dairy sheep, ultimately.
And you have a breeding program as well?
Yes, we started our breeding program 2.5 years ago, nearly 3 years ago, when we had the opportunity to, we had semen imported from England, which was the basis of the flock. So when we started our flock, that was our breeding program, and we're just increasing that. But in order to start this year rather than wait for another 2 years, we also bought to form this overall flock some of Spring sheep as well, and then we'll gradually build up our own flock and our own breeding program over the next 3 to 4 years.
Now for Māori that might watch this and think, oh, this looks interesting, I might look into this, how can they get started? Do their own research, although as you're aware, we've got our own Central North Island group that's shown keen interest, and so we had a day last Friday. But every year there's a sheep milking conference, and that's here in Rotorua in May, middle of May, and it's just about researching and seeing what the benefits are for changing, to ovine. But we're really firmly committed to it now. We do see the benefits, as I say, environmentally, labour-wise, and just reducing our carbon footprint overall, which is a big thing for the Onuku Māori Lands Dairy, Onuku Māori Lands Trust. Because we're mindful that our lands are here for our grandchildren and so on, For you personally, already having owned a bovine farm,
and we still do.
And you still do. What's the difference for you in terms of labour and everything else? Is it much easier maintaining a sheep farm compared to a bovine farm?
No, pretty similar in terms. Managing a dairy herd is pretty straightforward too, although you have your seasonal points where it's a busy time, and one of those times is of course the production time, calving or lambing for these girls, and those are particularly busy times. And then the other times at the mating time of the season, and the same for these ones. So the rams are out at the moment. We're coming to the end of the tupping cycle, and the other thing about these is they are high. They have a high fertility rate, so a high lambing percentage, far higher than our ordinary Romneys that you see over the dry stock farms. Yeah. Oh, look. Well, that's another one of the gains of this. As you say, there's no humidity here, lot cleaner, so the wash down, that's why I said earlier, much less water used in the whole operation for wash down and that. Drink less water than dairy cows do. about 60% less. So, you know, there's a gain in our water storage, water reservoir. And then, of course, out over the paddocks and that, less impact on our paddocks. You know, there's no potential for pugging and muddying because they're far lighter animal and they're spread around. So yeah, those are all some of the other gains, you know, and you're right, as you say, you look around here, there's no humidity.
Amazing. Amazing. But the cost of a sheep compared to the cost of a cow, cows are very expensive,
Yes.
but you have less cows, so you've got 900 sheep at the moment.
Yeah.
So how does that compare with the cost of buying cows? And
Yeah, about a third less than a dairy cow. So an average mixed stage dairy cow is about what's the price at the moment? 1,400, 1,500. You know, whereas these are, well, at the moment they're 500. Don't know why I want to say that too loud. Yeah, so about a third.
Hei tae nei kai pāmua no haungara ngā hua pūtea nui, tērā no ngā hua nui ki te hauora o te taiao me te tangata.
I'm talking about numbers because, I mean, the number of lambs we've got, they're high producers, all the sort of data we can talk about that. Sort of big.
Kia ora koutou. So just a bit of a background, you have in front of you a handout, just some basic information, and this will just set the scene a little bit. We're just coming up to the end of our first lactation with the Miraka Hipi operation, and I guess from where we stood a year ago here, we've come a long way, we think, and we feel as though we've started to achieve some of those little things that we wanted to tick off. About a year ago, the permission was given, or the approval was given by the board to go ahead with the business plan, business case we put up. So we set sail.
It's the cleanest milking shed I've ever been in.
are you going to open one?
We'd like to. We're not quite ready just yet, but we want to see what one looks like that's operating. Yeah, this looks great.
Oh, e pai rā. E toru e ne hua whapita I roto I te hipi ko tahi mai. Nā, I te akau I ngā hipi. Ai te taukato o rātau wairua mai I Miraka hia. Nā, te mākatoa, te he, ātahu. Nā hono o te tūmanau I ka homai e Willie Jackson e pēnei. Te paeno tā mātou pēnei te kāi.
So you're going to start one back in your home?
Well, kuri rā te pai o te hara mai I te tiro a tōna wā pēr ka tāia, I tēnei wā kāre pēr tāia. Tēnari, taira wā ki te wā e tiro ai mātau wā kuni wā māro te haere o tēnei. Ana kua te mohi o tātou I nā tino hua kāputa I konei. Tēnari, te pai hea o te hipi ka noho mātuni te whenua ai. Nā karakau e whakaparahia nā pōawa, nā repo. Kuri te pai hea o te hipi tuati te Miraka. Rau. Nā reira kai te tiro hoki nā iwi katoa nā motu o te ao. Me pehea tae te manaki pai te taia. Nā kua wakitea te āhua he o te Miraka kau. Nā te mea ko te rahi no nā tāna ta mahi ahu whenua. Te whakaaro ko te rahi nā tō te kararehe te pai nā. Te kā, kararehe te rai te ti. Nā kua whakaaro koe, akune he pai kia te hipi. Ka tūranu koe nā whenua katoa tēnei takiwā I raru I a rangitihi. Mā katoa te whenua. Te pērā katoa nā whenua kai rauruna nā hipina. Bueno, I tau mai nā moe a kia mātau mo nā nane koti. Nā kare take o wera. I tau mai ki nā kau. Well, ka te āhua pai wera, ka rau te tiki kai te tika. Ana enari, kune pai ki atu wene. Mō tō tātou taia. Kia kore e whakaparahia nā mō tātou wai mau. Te manaki aia, papatuanu. Wei rape te tirohana, te whaina o roa, mā tātou.
Barney mentioned earlier on, we have 4 dairy farms, 4 bovine dairy farms, milking still around about 1,650 cows. This was dairy farm number 2. It was 122 hectare property, milking about 360 dairy cows. What we did is we swapped the boundaries around slightly, ended up with, after the reconfiguration, ended up with a 112 hectare property here, and this year we've run or milked about 1,420 ewes. Actually, quite a few of them are hoggets. We've had about 40% hoggets. And next year we're going to take the plunge and go for the doctor and go to 2,000 ewes at the winter and milk 1,800 ewes, which is about 16 ewes per hectare. So we've taken a reasonably high performing dairy farm, a bovine dairy farm, and turned it into what we think will become a very high performing sheep dairy operation. So we're lucky in the fact that Onuku can modify its boundaries or where the different production units are, because we can basically start off on Boundary Road and drive through the farms, through underpasses, staying on farm tracks, all the way out to the viewing platform that is at the end of the dry stock farm, several kilometres away, that overlooks Rotomahana, straight into Mount Tarawera, and overlooks the last of the land that Onuku has, which is the Stoles Pike down by the shores of Rotomahana. So the operation that we have now is that we have 550 odd hectares of cows still. We've still got 3 working dairy farms running 1,500 cows. This is 112 hectares. We've got a 900 hectare sheep and beef operation, which largely focuses on finishing beef, finishing lambs. We trade a lot of lambs, around about 15,000 lambs a year, and we run dairy grazers. 135, well, 4 hectares of manuka, so Leah's convinced us all that manuka was the way to go, and it looks lovely, so hopefully in the future that will be something that's quite, quite a lot more value with our honey operation, and manuka oil maybe. And then 135 hectares of forestry, and the trust itself actually has 740 odd hectares that's been retired for about, what, 30 plus years?
Over those years.
Over 30 years. So the other riparian stripping the gully areas.
Yeah.
Okay. So this particular operation, if you go to page 2, we might as well launch straight into what we've actually got here, because that's that's quite important to know. What the system we have chosen, we've called, what I've called it, New Zealand hybrid. Okay, so in Europe with milking sheep, there is largely a housed type system. The animals spend a lot of time inside, and it's very much a cut and carry. New Zealand style of farming obviously is our pastoral-based system, or our field forage grazing system, and we've decided to try and stick somewhere in the middle. Now I know the sheep milk industry is developing quite quickly, and the general push is, and quite rightly so, more towards the advantage of trying to get as much field grazing in your system as possible. That's the most cost-effective form of feed, and we do have the climate in the main that allows us to graze stock outside most of the year round. So with the Onuku operation, and we're quite a lot higher at sea level, we're 420 metres above sea level here, and so our weather conditions are a lot more variable than, say, central Waikato or other areas that are looking at converting or are converting. So the system we've chosen allows us flexibility to have shade and shelter. So we've got 5,400 metres squared of sheltered housed area for our ewes, of which 5,100 is actually bedding material. It's actually the actual laneways we're going to look at. So we have the choice of either deciding whether we want to graze stock outside, graze them inside and house them, or run a combination of both. Okay. So it costs us about 4 million. Yep, I'll say that quickly. About 4 million is roughly the conversion of the investment. We hummed and hard. Our original plan had been to stick with herringbone sheds. However, because we potentially can grow from here, we thought we'd run with a rotary. So we've invested in an internal rotary. It means people stand inside, milk from the inside rather than the outside. 72 bales. Brewed off about 3.5 hours milking in the peak.
Yep.
And about 2 hours now.
Yep. Just under
2 hours.
Yep.
So we started off about 14-20 ewes milking, because we had about 1,530 odd ewes that we wintered that were inland.
I'm talking about numbers because, I mean, the number of lambs we've got, they're high producers, all the sort of data we can talk about there. Sort of big.
Sure. Kia ora koutou. So just a bit of a background. You have in front of you a handout, just some basic information, and this will just set the scene a little bit. We're just coming up to the end of our first vacation with the Miraka Hipi operation, and I guess from where we stood a year ago here, we've come a long way, we think, and we feel as though we've started to achieve some of those little things that we wanted to tick off. About a year ago, the permission was given, or the approval was given by the board to go ahead with the business plan, business case we put up. So we set sail, beneficial to the wider group, knowing no doubt about it, we can put the ewes in under shade during the summer. And it's about 3 or 4 degrees cooler in under shade in the middle of the summer than it is out in the hot sun. So that's something that we're sort of looking and watching with interest. Then we have the lamb rearing shed, which is over on the side over here. That's sort of the nursery. We plan on expanding. Didn't capture about 30,000 litres of milk, just by the fact that the decisions we made back then, because of circumstances out of our control. So, per year. Obviously, on the lambs that we have born, is half of them are ewe lambs, and so every lamb is settled on very strongly is that every animal counts, I suppose.